And here we are. Hello and welcome to another edition of A Lot of Help with James Lott Jr. I am your host, the Lot of A Lot of Help with James Lott Jr. Welcome to the show here on JLJ Media, my online network, where I have over 35 shows ranging from Star Wars to soap operas and left-handedness and everything in between. So make sure while you're here, subscribe, like, comment, share, tell a friend, tell a family member, tell anybody. Anybody who'll listen. I want to say that we have a chat room that's here. So if you want to come on and actually say a few words or say hello or join us in the morning, you're having your coffee or your tea. I should remember that people like that or tea. Go ahead and join us and say something. Say hello. Say hi to my guest. Say hi to me. But we are here. We're also audio too. So when this show is over, it'll be available as an audio podcast also. And that's on every streaming platform you can think of, from iHeartRadio to Spotify to Google, Apple, the whole shenanigans. It's all over there. So we have a serious subject we're going to talk about today. You know, I'm a certified life coach, and I'm also a survivor of several things, of a violent rape, also of child abuse, all kinds of different things. So we're going to talk to someone who actually can talk about it also. There's a book, a best-selling book out called Think Unbroken. But he's going to talk about what his life was like growing up. We have some questions about that, and how you out there, how he is surviving and thriving as a human in spite of his upbringing. And also we're going to talk to him about just give some tips on how to live. And you're not alone. You really, we put this before we came on. You really aren't alone. It may feel that way sometimes, but there are folks who are going through things similar or the same as you are too, and we should come together to help each other. I want to thank my guest and welcome him, Michael Unbroken. Hello, Michael.
Hello, my friend. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's my pleasure. First of all, how you doing? I always like to ask that. It's a Friday morning, and it's well, here in LA it's really hot. I don't know where you are, but it's been really hot. But how are you doing these days?
Yeah, I'm super good. You know, got up, went and did my routine, got into my habits, into my movements, started my day. You're the second person I've talked to this morning, so I'm like ripping and roaring. My Fridays are like packed. I'm like, how much impact can I make in one day? And so on Fridays I try to show up super hard. I'm excited to be here.
Do you think, I know for me, having gone through things, I appreciate life a lot more than I wouldn't have had if I hadn't gone through stuff I've gone through. Do you feel like that impacts how you fill up your days?
It does now. It didn't used to, right? Now, especially like because I got really clear on what the mission is. I got really clear on what it is that I want to spend my life doing. And ultimately it came down to this. You know, I was thinking about what drives me. And at the end of the day, I want to end generational trauma in my lifetime.
Oh,
James, that's almost impossible. It's
right.
unfeasible. It's far-fetched, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. And the only way that you get there is you have to put in a tremendous amount of effort and energy, create a tremendous amount of momentum, and then hopefully through centrifugal force, continue to create impact in the world at scale. And so, you know, whereas I used to wake up on a Friday and be like, oh my God, I have to go to work, and, you know, I'm going to get stoned in the morning and play video games and call in sick, you know, and a bunch of BS, you know, now 10, 11, 12 years removed from that, it's like, what can I do to create change today? How can I drive myself? How can I push myself? How can we push this narrative in the world? And so now every day I wake up and I put my feet on the ground. I literally say to myself, I am in control of my life. And I start my day like that to come into it with intention, so that I'm not wandering, so I'm not in limbo. So it's really, it's such a huge juxtaposition of where it began, because, you know, what's more fun than getting stoned and playing video games?
I'll tell you something. There is some there. I don't know about video games, but the game stone, I get that. No, but here's the deal. I had to do something myself. I had to change the narrative for me too. You know, I hate Mondays. Everybody says it. Everyone says that. I had to change to where I was like, I love Mondays. Mondays are my opportunity. Every day's a Monday. Every day, if you want to look at it that way, every day is a change for something for change. Every day is something new. Every day is something exciting. Like, why am I waiting for the weekend to come to have 2 days off? Why am I hating Mondays on Sunday night? Like, energy I was putting out over days, because of what we hear, what we're taught, what we feel. I had to flip the switch and go, no, every day is exciting. Every day is Monday or Tuesday or whatever. It doesn't matter. Every day is a weekend. It's a mindset shift, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I remember as a little kid hearing that song, Everybody's Working for the Weekend.
Oh
And
yeah.
I misinterpreted it because I used to think like, why would you want to work on the weekend? Right.
Uh,
Not really understanding the song. And then in my early 20s, I worked for a Fortune 10 company. And I was like, I can't wait for the weekend. And that I was literally just having this conversation last night. If you're living your life like that, not only are you out of alignment, but you're wasting your time. Because if you're going to a job that you hate every single day and you're like, oh, I can't stand Jim and Pam and office reference.
right. I
And you're
know.
like,
It's like okay,
I
Michael
have to
Scott.
go to the office every single day and have small talk and I'm miserable and I can't wait for the weekend. You need to quit your job. You need to take control over your life because I don't know about you, but that is not living, Livin. And so I think about that every single day. And I don't even take days off, James. I haven't taken a day off in like 3 years. And look, people will go, well, you're a workaholic. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm building something that I'm in alignment with. And so to me, this idea of like taking time off, if I need a break, I'm taking a break.
There you
Period.
go. There you go.
Period. But I'm not spending my days waiting for the weekend so I can live my life. No, 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 no. That's nonsense. That's not how you live. That's how you die.
Oh, where's my bell? That's the bell moment right there on my show. I love what you said. I'm the same way. I don't have like days off. I don't look at holiday. None of that stuff. I don't look at any of that stuff. Like it's President's Day. I'm like, I don't. That's not in my brain anymore. So like I said, because I'm an entrepreneur and I have my own business. Hello in the chat room. Hello, you guys. I when I want to break, you're right. I'd take a break. It could be middle of the day. I could clear my schedule one day and go, I'm clearing out my Friday afternoon. And I go off I live at the beach. I go to the beach, I do my stuff, meet up with a friend or whatever. And I may work that evening and go, well, what was I said? No, I really enjoy. I had like 5 hours off. I enjoyed myself. I took time off. It was great. And now I'm energized to do what I need to do. I don't need to take a full weekend off if I don't need it. And there's times I've had to take weekends off for things, family stuff, but like, I don't have to have that every week. I take it off when I need it. Like you said, I take breaks when I need the breaks. I'm a napper. I take naps sometimes. I love a good nap. And I'm like, people ask you how I look at my 50s is because I take naps and I take breaks when I feel like it. That's how all this other stuff too happens. Why? It's like, but you know what I mean. I like when you said that. It's like I don't need to take a specific scheduled time off. I can take time off in pieces when I need it to re-energize or rest.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too, right? When you get into awareness of who you are, you can honor that. And you do that by listening to yourself, by listening to your intuition, by listening to your gut. But I often ask myself, James, am I taking care of myself or am I taking it easy on myself? Because life is very binary. You have to get into this way in which you exist so that you're creating momentum. And there's a lot of, I would call it miseducation in the culture of personal development right now, where everybody is always like, no, no, it's okay. Take it easy on yourself. Don't worry about it. You'll get to it tomorrow. And I'm like, I might die in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think that if you have to ask yourself some really deep questions here. Ultimately, at the end of the day, no one can tell you how to live your life but you. And I think about this idea of being in alignment, meaning, can you listen to your truth, to your intuition, to your heart, to your gut? And in these moments when you're like, oh, I want to take a break, quote unquote, do you really need to take a break or are you procrastinating? And if you do need to really take a break, then take a break. Fine, so be it. But if you are procrastinating, then you need to challenge yourself and ask yourself, where am I out of alignment here? What am I scared of? What is it that on the other side of walking through this tunnel am I afraid of accomplishing? Because when you change the way that you think about what you're capable of doing, you'll do huge things. And I get it. Like, it's hard. Nothing that anyone has ever done that's worth doing has been easy. And you hear that said in passing all the time, but it's so true. You got to put in the reps, you got to put in the work, you got to put in the energy. And a lot of people who are like, I'm stuck, I can't seem to chase my dreams, my life is miserable, they're watching Netflix for 4 hours every night. and they're going to hang out with their friends on the weekend, and they're not building anything in alignment with themselves because they've accepted that they're willing to let themselves down constantly by taking it easy on themselves because society has said life is stressful, so it's okay. Whereas I argue that, is that true? Because I don't know that life has never not been stressful. I don't know that life ever gets unstressed. But that doesn't mean, again, and I know people are going to email me, they're going to cancel me, they're going to be like, I can't believe you said that. You're in mental health. You need to push yourself. You want your life to change. Change only happens when you make change happen. But that change has to happen within the alignment of your values, your wants, your needs, your interests, and your boundaries, and on your terms. And that's where people get conflicted.
I will piggyback. They can write me letters too. People say things, but I don't care. But I'm going to say, I said this last year and got in trouble, and I don't care. When the pandemic hit, for a lot of us, yes, our careers came to a halt in a weird way. I mean, I'm in media, I'm in organizing, and it was like they both stopped because at the moment it was like we came to people's houses and the studio shut down. So like, what do you do? Well, for many of us, it was a chance to go within and be creative about it. And we're figuring it out. And I figured it out. And I'm like, God, geez, you're working harder than you did, when the pandemic was happening. I go, because I had to figure it out. Like you say, you have to put in the work, put in the time, put in the mental energy, trying to piece it together. And while folks are like, well, James, don't try to make me feel bad for not doing anything. I go, but you were working hard before the pandemic. All of a sudden now you're like, I can't do anything. What's wrong with me? So I'm just saying, for me, it was like, I grew up in my generation, Gen X, we were taught to work hard. You have to work hard to get anything. And I feel like the next generations were taught a little differently because we work so hard that we said, take it easy. So I feel like maybe it's part of my generation's fault because we work so hard. I was taught you have to work hard to get something. And so, and life is always hard. Life is always, I've been busy since I was 10 years old. I feel like I've always been busy. You know what I mean? So when you say that, I go, yeah, Michael, I'm like, I felt like, but during the pandemic, a lot of folks, I was questioning, are you taking advantage of this time? Or there was a lot of mental health stuff that happened. And we were during a weird, strange time that we were all going through the same time. But I have a lot of friends who are like getting mad at me for working hard. They were getting mad at seeing my post on Instagram and all my shows I was doing. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm working. I'm figuring it out. So Michael, there you go.
Yeah. What else are you going to do?
Well, sit at home, do nothing.
It's your life. You're either going to do it or you're not. And look, and I'll say this, if you are good, like there's this weird movement happening in the world where everyone thinks they have to be an entrepreneur. No, you don't. You don't have to go build a business. You don't have to go and make the next big thing. You don't have to do any of those things.
True.
At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is that you're good with who you are in whatever capacity that means. And if you are like, I'm going to go work real hard at the day job and come home and game all night, like, respect. I don't care. But if you are in this place in your life where you're like, I'm miserable, I hate my life, and you go home and you game all night and you don't quit that job or leave that relationship or travel to that country or write that book or do that thing, you have to ask yourself, what are you afraid of? And so many of us, it's just fear of our potential because we've been told you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you're not capable enough. Who do you think you are? That's a stupid haircut. Fuck that shirt. Like all of those things. And then suddenly you're in this place where if it's true, which I believe it is, that we are the stories that we tell ourselves, then now you're starting to tell yourself someone else's narrative of who it is that you should be. And you have to think about this. What you think becomes what you speak, and what you speak becomes your action, and your action become your reality. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather have my reality be on my terms as opposed to something someone else embedded in me. And that's such a big part of this journey as a whole, because growing up, right, and especially in Western societies, in America in particular, you come through the school system. They're like, walk on the right side of the line, eat your lunch at this time, raise your hand to go to the bathroom. The most anarchist thing I've ever heard in my life.
I know.
Right. And then don't color the sun purple. Don't wear those shoes. Don't have an opinion. Go to school, get good grades, go to college, get married, be in debt, buy the car, get the house, do all the things because we told you to. And then at 56, go, I've never lived a day in my life. And that is very, very hard. And maybe I'm I'll say this, I'm spoiled. I got kicked out of high school. I hated school as a kid. I was selling drugs. I was running the streets. I was doing drugs. And they literally handed me my diploma. They were like, you got to get out of here. And I knew, even as a child, I was always the why kid. Not the why kid who's like the annoying kid who's like, why? But I was like, why? Explain it to me. Help me understand why I have to do the thing that you're saying that I have to do. And maybe that's just me being like this abashedly unafraid kid to challenge authority. And in that, there were a lot of ramifications from that, but it put me in a position where today I hold true to that. I don't take anything for face value ever, because I need to understand it at depth so I can make a decision. And so many times we're just handed something. I'm like, this is what it's supposed to be. And we don't challenge it. And when you don't challenge it, you have to accept that you've created that reality because you're not doing it on your terms. And so when you know that you've come through this system that has created you to be an assembly line worker, who's forcing you, the fact that college exists and the capacity that it does, where you have to go get $100,000 in debt, is nonsense, because then you're tied into this forever. And then suddenly you're looking at your life and you're like, all I'm trying to do is get out of debt. All I'm trying to do is stay afloat. All I'm trying to do is survive. And then you're like, how do I thrive? How do I thrive? You have to break the cycle. You have to swing the pendulum the other way. You have to create momentum in your life around what drives you, around who you are, around what you want. And the only way that you're going to do that, I think about that like this all the time, James. When you're driving, you're going to come to a tunnel. And at the end of the tunnel, you can see the light, but you have to go through the tunnel. And the tunnel is fear.
Yeah.
And you have a choice to make when you're in that car. You can either go through the tunnel or you can put the car in reverse and go back home. And here's what's really fascinating about this. As soon as you get through the tunnel, you're going to go around the bend, and then there's going to be another one. And that's life.
Yeah.
That's how this works. You have to be willing to face your fear while understanding that potential is limitless. You can literally do anything that you want to do in life. I'll say this, I am not special. I don't know anything anyone doesn't know. The only thing that's been able to drive me to this place in my life is I'm willing to face fear. I've written a #1 best-selling book. I didn't graduate high school on time. I had straight Fs. I've traveled the world. I've lived in 12 different countries. I was homeless as a child and had to steal food to survive. I've spoken on the biggest stages in the world, and I've had people in my childhood tell me, you don't matter. If you let other people dictate your life, then you will live other people's lives. And if you choose to show up for yourself and face the fear, and I'm not saying it's easy, because it's not. I don't think any of it is. Then every single day you'll go through a tunnel, and then you'll go around the bend, and then there'll be another tunnel. And on a long enough timeline, you're going to create the life that you want to have. But you have to deploy a tremendous amount of patience. It might take you 10 years. Think of, I started, if I get serious about this, I started Think Unbroken 5.5 years ago, almost 6 years ago. You didn't know who I was. Nobody did. And nobody did for a very long time. And nobody still does, right? There's 8 billion people on planet Earth. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows what I'm doing. But I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep moving forward, because I've decided that the mission is greater than me. And there may be somebody listening or watching right now who's like, I have the next best idea how to make the world better. I want to be a humanitarian. I want to be a philanthropist. I want to create that thing that kid needs, that I needed when I was a kid. And you're not doing it. And that's selfish.
I like that. Yes, the world. I'll piggyback off you to say that everything you said I totally agree with, and I don't have the magic sauce either, folks. I start from scratch, just like everybody else. You have to start somewhere. People call me fearless, but I think it's just, I don't even know if I'm fearless. It's just that I just do it. I mean, I have a drive that says that I have to walk through it. Just how I have to. I mean, it's like I started my career over in my 40s, and people thought it was crazy. I started stuff in my 50s, and everybody thought it was crazy. And I'm like, it's not crazy. It's as long as I wake up every morning and still breathe, it's a chance. It's always a chance. I didn't want one of those people who's like, when I turn 65, then I'll travel the world. It's like, why wait till 65?
Yeah, you might not make it.
You're not going to make it. I mean, it's just, I mean, I lost a brother, so I know he didn't make it to 50. So I'm like, I made it. So I'm doing great. I made it. So for me, it's like, I feel what you're feeling. It's like, I have to keep going. I have to live my full life. I have to keep going and do what I want in the face of people telling you, like you said, that's a crazy idea. What are you thinking? James, you want to start your life already 40 during a recession? That's crazy. Like, it's not crazy. It's not crazy, right? It's not crazy.
I agree. And I think that if you change your relationship with time and death, that you will change your life. Because people think that they get tomorrow. You are not promised tomorrow. You're not promised your next breath. I could die right now, James. For real. Like for real, for real. And people need to understand that. Like, you don't get any say in this. You can only control what you can control, and you have to accept ACC, EPT, the rest. I accept the fact that I don't get to control my death. And due to that acceptance, I choose to show up every day, all out, 100%, gung ho, right? Because here's the truth about it. The fear that drives me, the overarching fear of my life, is on my deathbed, I will have regret. That's so powerful to me. It's way more powerful than the fear of criticism or judgment or failure. Those things I don't care about. What I care about is like lying on my deathbed. And then that moment, that moment happens where you see the light and this white happens and you watch your whole existence in the blink of an eye. My fear is that what actually happens is that in that moment, a movie plays of your life, of what could have been. And you watch it and you go, I didn't do any of those things. And that to me is far more terrifying than you not liking me. And so because of that, I drive extremely hard towards that because I understand something. You are going to die. And when you die, if you die with regrets, then you did not live. But I get it, right? Because we're scared of, look, I'll tell you this. At 25 years old, I was working for a Fortune 10 company. I was making six figures. I'm a kid from the hood who didn't graduate high school, like for real. And I worked for a Fortune 10 company by the time I was 20 years old. Yeah. You can do anything you want in life, but you have to ask yourself, are you in alignment? So I have this job. I'm making all this money. Here's the catch. I'm 350 pounds, smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, drinking myself to sleep, having anonymous sex with strangers, putting myself in the most precarious situations that you could possibly imagine. And one day I woke up, James, and I was laying in bed. I called in sick to work. Again, this working for the weekend idea. So it was like a Thursday, and I called in sick to work, and I was like lying in bed, smoking a joint, eating chocolate cake, and watching the CrossFit games. Keep in mind, I'm 350 pounds. Like, if this is not rock bottom, dude, I don't know what is.
Right.
And then I had to ask myself, well, Michael, what are you willing to do to have the life that you want to have? Because see, I was living what everyone else told me I was going to be. What my stepfather told me what I was going to be, what my mother did, my neighborhood, my community, the teachers, everyone said I wasn't going to be anything. And that was true because I wasn't, because I let them dictate my life. And then you fast forward a lot of work, a lot of therapy, a lot of men's groups, a lot of AA and NA and all those things. And I never thought I was an alcoholic. I was just hiding. Like, I was just hiding from the pain. And then you add in personal development. You add in all these books. I read like 65 to 75 books a year. And then you add in all these certifications. I got like 35 or 40 certifications in trauma education. And then you add in all the practice of stepping into the tunnel every single day. And 12 years later, here I am talking to you. Yeah. And my point in saying this is that your life can be whatever you want it to be. It's going to take hard work and time. But the thing, here's the juxtaposition of it, right? While time is also the key, time is also the singular thing that will take your dream away.
I agree with that. I love that. I mean, it's one of those things where I know I was doing High on the Hog in San Francisco, making $200,000 a year. I mean, I had no debt. I also had a good time, going trips and everything, and I was not happy. I told people a story where my stomach was hurting every day, and I went to the doctors. They're like, "We can't find anything." Like regular medicine doctors couldn't find anything. You seem fine and healthy. but my stomach hurts every day I went to work. When I quit
Mhm.
that job, within 5 minutes, Michael, within 5 minutes, I shit you not, it stopped hurting.
The
Trust your
body
gut.
keeps the score. The
Trust
body
your
keeps the
gut.
score. Look, the truth about it is that's so true. Stress is a huge catalyst. Your body. Okay, so here's what I think happens. And I'm not a doctor, so this is not medical advice. So
Yes.
don't sue me because you ain't gonna get anything anyway.
Yes.
When I was having 5 panic attacks a day for
Oh my
like
goodness.
4 years.
Oh my God.
It
Okay.
was unbelievable. It
And they're
was
not fun,
so
folks.
it
Panic
was
attacks are
so
not fun.
torturous.
Yeah.
So torturous, man. And the moment I made the decision around the thing I had to make the decision on about what I knew I had to make a decision on, they stopped. They
Yeah.
literally stopped on a dime
I
because I
believe it.
believe that the stress that your body shows you is because you're hiding from what it needs to
Yes.
release.
Yes. I agree with that.
And so, of
Completely.
course, the moment you quit the job that you hate, your stomach stopped
Oh, it
hurting
stopped. It stopped. Literally, I mean,
because you were
I remember
torturing yourself.
I was. And I just remember when I lived even since San Francisco, we took the BART. That's the subway system. So I had to walk 8 blocks to my office. And it was a nice 8 blocks. So it was a good little exercise in the morning. But I know my stomach would hurt more and more as I got closer and closer to the building.
Mhm.
It's like, ow, like, is it the coffee? Is it I have a breakfast? I kept playing it off, right? Michael Bay just playing it off and not listening to my body. But then going to the doctor and they're going, there's no ulcer, nothing going like, and once someone said, well, I remember one doctor just say, it might be stress related, maybe it's your diet or something like that. Anyway, but I seriously, when I gave my notice and said I'm resigning, I'm moving back to Los Angeles, changed my life, it just miraculously went away. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm being tongue in cheek when I say that. I just all of a sudden just dissipated. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I tell my clients, I go, so I say, trust your gut, trust your intuition. Your body talks to you. It does talk to you. It tells you what it wants. But we have to be willing to be present and listening.
Yeah. And look, here's the hard part about that, James. It's easier said than done, right? Because
Oh
think
yeah,
about how long you ignored it. You had to
oh
hit
yeah,
this, you had to hit some kind of like rock bottom moment, right?
I did. I did. I did.
Look, you
I
know
did.
why I know that? Because I've been trying, I believe this. There is a solution somehow to the equation of mitigating the risk of having to hit rock bottom before you create change. I'm trying to figure out what the variable is. I
Oh,
don't know what it is. So until that moment, I've talked to so many
right.
incredible specialists, educators, therapists, psychologists, world leaders. Everyone agrees you have to hit rock bottom. I'm trying to figure out how to mitigate the risk for
Yeah.
that. I don't know what it is, but I will tell you this. I think that you can do it sooner. And I think the solution for doing it sooner is to listen to your gut, to what your heart says the moment that it says it, and make a choice. But here's the hard part. Growing up, especially growing up in trauma,
Yes.
there is often ramifications for you showing up as yourself.
Yes.
And so it is for some of us, like myself, it was beaten out of me. This idea that I could be me. It was taken from me. It was stolen from me. And so, coming through, I would remember I would try to just do the thing that I felt like I could do as a kid. And there'd be some kind of punishment. Everything, man. I would get beaten for reading a book that I wasn't allowed to read. Like, that's how crazy this was. And so in my 20s, of course, I wouldn't be living the life that I wanted to live because it was taken from me. It was stolen from me. And you have to take it back. And the only way that you take it back is through a series of just doing the thing that you want to do because you want to do it, because it's in alignment with who you are.
Yeah.
And then you create momentum by making granular and microscopic shifts, 1 degree every single day, that just push you a little bit further ahead. I wish I could have used these words years ago as a better way to explain this.
Yeah.
But I think about it like this. Life is a pendulum. Everything that happens is a pendulum. What you think becomes what you speak becomes your action becomes your reality. So everything starts with what you think. And if you believe it, then you can achieve it, right? And that's easy. But in between believing it and action, there's a lot of forethought that has to go into it. You have to convince yourself of possibility. And then the pendulum swings down and now you're in action. Suddenly you're doing some things. The goal's still not there. You're still moving towards it, but you're doing some things. And the more that you do, you start to create momentum. And the more momentum you create, the more you swing up the pendulum until you're up at this point of what I call self-actualization, where your reality is in alignment with your thoughts of who you can be. And in that, what happens is momentum carries you even further, that suddenly you shoot over the pendulum. Think about a swing set when you're a little kid. You're always trying to go over the top of it. Well, you can't go over the top of it because you don't have enough momentum, right? So you have more momentum, you start to swing through it, and then force pushes you up and over. So now you start to swing over and around it like a centrifuge, right? And you have escape velocity. So suddenly you hit the peak of self-actualization, and then you look at your life and go, oh, I can do more. This is where it gets crazy. You're like, oh, I can do more. This isn't the end. And then so you take all this momentum, you shoot over the top, and then you're back into thinking. And then you do it again and again and again and again. And then the centrifugal force through momentum starts to create the life that you want to have. The thing about it, though, is what you have to understand is it may take you 15 years to reach escape velocity, but it all starts with what you think. And so if you understand something about life, and that is that you're living very likely being ingrained with these negative self-truths that other people gave you, not you, and you start to reframe those by doing this really difficult thing called believing in yourself, which starts only through what you're thinking. I believe that's the catalyst for everything. And it's very binary. It's yes or no. Either you will or you will not. There is no in between. You are either a kind person to yourself or you are not. There is no in between. But you have to recreate that. You have to build that. And then in time, you start to swing through this idea and these concepts of life. And next thing you know, these tunnels, they start going by so rapidly that it just becomes natural for you to be moving through them every day.
For me, I can ask you this question actually. For me, it was my father was my main focus of trauma. So it took me until my, I don't know, it literally was my 40s. I heard a phrase by Brene Brown, who I love, and she said something for me, it just clicked. She had said, forgiveness, definition of forgiveness is giving up the hope the past can be any different. Forgiveness is giving up the hope the past could be any different. And that, for some reason, that phrase made me sob like a baby. And it clicked for me. And so, and I started doing the heavy work of getting through my generational trauma. And now I'm fine. I mean, 12, 13 years later, I'm fine. But like, it took me that phrase that shook me out. I go, wait a minute, you're right. I'm holding on to stuff thinking that if my father finally said he was sorry or finally said this, that, but everything happened, it happened. It's not going anywhere, whether he says yes or no. And that forgiveness is really for me, not for him. I have to forgive myself for putting all this stuff on myself because of what I went through. And that's what so I want to ask you, what was the moment, or is there a moment or moments that were for you that helped you start your journey of coming out of your traumas as a child and young adult?
You know, it started really young actually, because at 8 years old, I remember just looking at life and going, something here is not right.
Okay.
And I knew it at a young age. And the reason that I knew it is because I was exposed to what I would call happy homes, safe homes. You know, we were homeless a lot as a kid. I lived with like 30 or 40 different families, like just getting bounced place to place to place. And so I was able to see the good and the bad of people. And, you know, in that I would see like, oh man, sometimes it's good. And I would look at that. I go, okay, cool. So something in my home is not actually right. And then I started to remove myself from it, right? In like a real way. At 14 years old, I put a restraining order on my mother. And at 18, and my stepfather, it was simultaneous. And at 18, I told my mother, I will never talk to you again. And that's because I saw the path, James. I looked at it and I was like, if I'm in this, I won't be talking to James. Right. It will never happen.
Right.
And I told her that. And I said, I'll never talk to you again until the day she died. I think I talked to her one time. And it was the most difficult, but simultaneously best decision I've ever made in my life. No questions asked. And I had to do the same thing with my grandmother. And I noticed something about this, and that was that generational trauma. My mother experienced what my grandmother's experienced, what her grandmother experienced, and so on and so forth. And in that came a little bit of a sense of freedom, because I recognized it wasn't just one person being mean for the sake of doing it. This was their software. They were embedded with this. They were ingrained with it. And in that came from this idea of like, I was looking at my life. I'd been going to therapy, but I've been going into therapy since I was 7 years old. And I learned to lie to the therapist because I found out that every time I told the therapist something, they told my parents, right? So much for that oath, right?
Right.
And then I found myself in my 20s going to therapy because it was like the thing to do. I lived in an affluent neighborhood. I got out of the hood. I was driving a $85,000 car, like living that life, right? And you go to therapy, go find the rich guy who does therapy, go pay him $200 an hour and lie to him.
Right.
And I did that for a long time, just trying to convince myself that I was doing the work. And I wasted a lot of time, effort, energy, and money.
Yeah.
And then when I had this rock bottom moment, right, this chocolate cake CrossFit incident, I've asked myself, what are you willing to do to have the life that you want to have? And in that, like literally the words, no excuses, just results, made me recognize what that actually meant. And that was by any means necessary. I'm going to work through this. And I was thinking to myself, like, where do you really start with this? And at first, it was a series of things. I tried a little bit of everything, but ultimately it was about, can I get to this place where I feel okay about me? Because I didn't. At 26, I had no self-esteem. I didn't like the reflection in the mirror. I hated myself. I hated who I was. I hated the way I was in the world. I hated my actions and my choices and my decisions. And so I started building that up. How do I get out of that? And it was, I got to go to the gym today. And I got to go to yoga today. And I have to meditate today. I have to write in my journal today. And I have to do personal development today. And I have to start removing myself from the community that, while they do support me in some capacity, are not in alignment with me, right? What do you have to give up in your life to get what you want? And that involved a lot of people, a lot of choices, a lot of actions, a lot of community. And ultimately, 6 years ago, I left Indiana. I grew up in Indianapolis. And one of the things people don't understand about Indianapolis, it's a hyper violent city. My three childhood best friends got murdered. And I'd been in handcuffs multiple times. I had guns drawn on me. I put guns in people's faces. Like, I did that whole thing. And I knew that if I stayed in that community, and I was removed from it, I was some miles up the road, right? But every time I drive by that certain street, I'd have that memory. Every time I'd smell that certain smell, it'd throw me back into these fits. Every time I happen to, out in public, cross paths with that person from the past, I'd go, why am I still here? And I uprooted my whole life, and I moved on a healing journey almost 6 years ago to go into depth, because I was feeling a lot better, James. Things were like really moving for me, but there was still something holding me back. I still felt sick. I still had that pain in my stomach, like in a literal way, like you.
Yeah.
And I swear to you, the moment that I crossed the Indiana-Illinois border, I was in tears, because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go figure out my life. And then I did that. I stepped into it, and I really got serious about the journey. And that became getting serious about therapy, and getting serious about personal development, and getting serious about crafting and creating the life I want to have, and pushing myself mentally, emotionally, and physically, determining who it is that I wanted to be, writing it down, moving towards it, creating momentum, and then ultimately, getting into that centrifugal force. And today I'm in this place where I'm like, I measure it and I'm like, I'm at the beginning. I'm at the beginning. Whatever is next, this is only the beginning. My goals are, I wrote down a goal here. I write in my journal every day. And my goal used to be help 25 people. That's reasonable.
It is.
Help 25 people. And then I was like, actually, no, it's not reasonable. It's unreasonable and selfish. And I wrote down help 250 million people.
Like that.
Because to me, being of service is about creating massive change. And the only way you create massive change is by massive audience. And in order to have a massive audience, you have to start. And the first time I hosted workshops, the first time I got on stages, the first time I did anything, 3 people would show up or 1. I remember one time 1 person showed up. So I'm like, cool, awesome, 1 person, let's go. So many people are worried about the people who didn't show up.
Yes.
And I'm only worried about the people who did. And so I think about life and creating change in this whole healing journey, and it's choice-based. This is where people get it really twisted. Everything in your life is your choice. I'm sorry to break it to you. No one else breathes for you. No one lives for you. No one loves for you. No one acts for you. This is on you. And yes, there is pain. And yes, there is fear. And yes, you're going to have to go through the tunnels. But you can go through those tunnels with other people, with support, with a team. You don't have to do it alone, but you do have to do it.
You do. And I you know, for you, so, I mean, it's so much to unpack there. One of the things I want to unpack is that you start this journey, you start to get serious. I'm going to overcome this generational trauma of what I've been going through, cutting off family members. For a lot of people, that's hard. I'm just telling you, I've had to do it too. It just sometimes you have to do what's best for you. Why do you, in your just experience, why do you think it's so hard for people to look out for themselves?
Well, again, it comes back to what we're talking about. You've been ingrained since a child that you're about the community. Stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Get in line at the same time with the other kids. Eat lunch when we tell you to eat lunch. Wear the clothes we tell you to wear. Don't act, think, do anything that is in alignment with who you think you are, because you are wrong. And then one day you're out of college or school or whatever is next. And you look at your life and you go, what am I supposed to do?
That's true. That's true.
Of course you don't know what to do. You've never been allowed to do what you want to do.
That's true.
Not once ever. You had to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. And now you're supposed to go figure out who you are.
Right.
This is nonsense, man.
Well, you know, also something you said too that kind of goes with that too. I mean, yes, there are books on how to be a parent, but I mean, just in general, everybody's living their lives. You're figuring it out. I'm a parent. I'm a grandparent. I lucked out, but I was a father I didn't have. That's what I found out years later. I didn't know this till years later, because my kids are grown.
Yeah.
I realized that journey though, Michael, was when I became an adult and started looking into my trauma. I started seeing my parents as humans.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're born and we're presented with these 2, sometimes 1, sometimes 2, or 3 or 4, sometimes depends on how your life is, that these people who are older than you know better, they're in charge, everything you just said, they're going to tell you how to live your life, how much you're going to do. And we realize later that they're just humans like the rest of us and don't know everything, have their own stuff going on. But I didn't learn it until I was an adult. I didn't learn that until I finally started seeing both my mother and father as 2 adult human beings, not just my parents.
Mm-hmm.
That saved my life also, Michael. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, I have some thoughts on it. You know, I agree to an extent, right?
Okay.
It's contextual, right? So let me be clear about that. Yes, they're adults. Yes, they're human beings, but they still have to make choices.
Oh no, yeah, definitely. I'm just saying that I didn't see them as these magical. I saw them as these magical figures.
I see what I got you. I'm following. Yeah. I mean, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. But what else do you know as a kid? Like, think about this. When you're a kid, now I don't have the privilege of having a father, but I do understand something that most kids would go, my dad can beat up your dad, right? Yes. My dad's a superhero. I would hear that. I'd be like, well, my dad's just not even here, so I don't know what this means. But I would relate to that, and I would think to myself, okay, cool. So adults, they got it all figured out.
Right.
They're dude, no joke. The only thing people are like, when you're a kid, what was your dream? And they're like, I want to be an astronaut or in the NBA. I was like, I just want to be a grown up. That's literally the only thing I ever wanted to be as a kid. Because I was like, when I'm a grown up, I'm in charge. And then you become a grown up, and until you actually take charge, you're not. And that's what I learned. That's what I understood about being a human being. The people I look up to the most in the world are the people who've taken charge, who live life on their terms, not in like this weird, like people think about control in like this weird callous way where like you're evil somehow if you control your life. I control everything in my life. It is the Michael show 24/7.
Okay.
Because if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
That's true.
I can't, like, nobody's going to make me go to the gym. Nobody's going to make me drink tea in the morning. Nobody's going to make me go on my walk. Somebody's going to make me journal. It's my life.
Yeah,
And that's the thing people have to understand. Like, everybody has choices to make in life. You do. And it's difficult because, you know, when you come from these backgrounds of not being able to allow yours to be allowed to make choices, and then you come to this precipice in which you have to make them, it's incredibly uncomfortable.
It's a great point. That's why, yeah, so I want to clarify. That's why I mean, when I saw them as human, meaning I see them now as the rest of us. That you're right. We have to all, but they're not these mystical, magical beings that are all knowing, all seeing, everything they say is correct. That's what I saw as an adult going, wait a minute, they're not that way. They're like you and me. We have to still put our shoes on, our clothes on, and make decisions.
Yes. Yeah.
Every day. It's tough.
It is tough. But you know what? Here's the thing. Every single day you have a choice to make. That's how this works. Every day.
It does.
And so you can choose you or you cannot. There's no in between.
I want to ask you, in this point in your life, do you ever still have any nightmares, traumas? And it could be nightmares not necessarily at night, but just like, do you have any things that still come up for you?
Yeah, constantly, man. I mean, I had a tremendously terrible childhood. You know, my mother was a drug addict and alcoholic. Like, she cut my right index finger off when I was 4 years old.
That's amazing. That's the craziest. I read that. I was like, wow.
I carry, every time I look at my hands, James, I have the scars. I got burn marks on my arms. I have it. It is here. It doesn't go away, but I have the tools to deal with it. I have the tools to deal with it. Right. Same thing. I'll walk down the street. Sometimes a smell will come up. I'll be like,
oh,
yep,
yeah.
I remember that thing that happened. And I'll go, cool. I understand that. I wrap my head around it. I put it where it needs to go. And I'm lucky because, I won't say I'm lucky, I took a lot of work, but that work has empowered me to be able to live life. And I'm not saying that I don't get triggered. I used to be the guy. So the word triggered started to get on my radar about 11, 12 years ago. And I would be like, I don't get triggered. That's nonsense. Somebody made that word up. That's not a thing.
Yes.
And then what I understood was like, I was automatically disqualifying myself and my experience by saying that's not real. And so, yeah, it happens day. And yeah, people go, well, you're a leader in trauma and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and I'm a human being and dark things happen to me. So when I think about that, I acknowledge it. I go, yeah, that happened. I remember this, but I'm not going to carry it. I'm not going to bring it with me. I'm going to let it exist. See, people try to fight it. They try to fight it. They try to stuff it down. That's what I did for years.
Me too.
It's going to come. It's going to come some way or another. So you got to be prepared for that. And so now it's like when it happens, I'm prepared. I know it could happen right now.
Right. Because then, Michael, you can't, what's it saying? You can't run from yourself.
No, you can't. You got to look in that mirror every day. You got to put you in the peace, in the quiet, and the calm of your life. It's where it comes. And you're laying in bed at night, put your head on the pillow, and then it's there.
Yes.
You can run from it until you can't. Eventually it's going to catch up to you. And so having the right support is everything. Having a coach, having a mentor, having a therapist, a psychologist, having a yoga practice, having a journal, having all of the things that you need are how you move through this. And so, yes, of course I get triggered. Yes, I carry the scars on my body, on my soul. The mind, I would argue that the scars in my mind are like more intense than the scars on my body.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
But I have support for those things. I have tools for those things. So, you know, it's, you got to understand you can't do this alone.
So, well, okay, so I'm gonna change gears for a second. So, I mean, I can talk to you forever. This is amazing. What does Michael Anthony do for fun?
Yeah, so, you know, this I think about it like this a lot. People ask me this question pretty frequently. Um, I I'm on a mission. You have to understand this first, and the mission comes over everything. And if you go back hundreds of years, people did their job every day, Monday through Sunday, every single day, because that's what you did. That's how I operate. That's how I think. That's what I do. But I am also a human being. So there's a few things that I absolutely love. I'm a huge fan of mixed martial arts. I watch UFC all the time, as much as I can, because growing up, I was obsessed with it. I still am. And to me, it's this beautiful chess game of competitors. Because I'm super competitive, man.
I can see you on The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah. I got my Muay Thai gloves right there. I love
see you. I can
fighting.
see as a character on there. I can see you on there when you see
But I love fighting, but I don't like being in fights. So that's
funny.
I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, I don't want to be punched in the face. I've spent enough time doing that. I practice Muay Thai living in Thailand and traveling the world, and I don't like getting punched in the face. But I like the practice of it. I like the art of it.
Okay.
And then I would definitely consider myself to be a film buff. And that's because that's a great place for me. Maybe not. That might be the wrong way to phrase that. But I love film. And it's a great way for me to remove myself from reality for a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's what I do. That's it. That's it. I don't have anything else. That's all I got.
but that's good. I mean, the thing is, I think, I tell people all the time for my stuff that what I'm doing is kind of fun for me also. I get to do this. This is fun. Mm-hmm. So I don't need to wait till a specific time to have fun. I'm having fun doing this. I'm having fun doing my music, my books, or whatever. I'm having fun actually in my work, right? So that's kind of you too, right? On some level, it's kind of
100%. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean I have to grind and do things I don't want to do because I am running a business, but like at the end of the day, it's fun every single day. There's nothing I want to do more than this, period. So that's why I do it.
Another book coming out of you at some point?
Yeah, so I've written 2 now. I wrote a third one and then I read it and I was like, nope, and I deleted it and I'm just gonna start over.
Okay.
Because it was my first attempt at fiction.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just like, I don't understand this. So I don't even read fiction books. So I was like, what I actually need to do is I have to start adding fiction into my routine. And I literally read 60 to 70 books a year, every single year.
But none are fiction books. They're not a story.
Two in the last 10 years, Life of Pi and The Alchemist. That's it.
Which are fiction, but are still kind of in that realm of
like self-development.
Yeah, right? That's kind of fun. That's kind of funny. Wow.
And I started recently reading
read some James Patterson.
Oh my gosh, what is that book called? It's on my desk in the other room. It's about a bird, the songbird or something like that.
Okay.
I read it and I got 3 chapters in. I was like, I cannot do this. Because I would rather dive into the imagination in film than in fiction.
Okay.
And I think, and I'm working through untraining this in my brain where I only look at reading as educational. So I'm trying to figure out right now actually how to look at reading as entertainment.
Recreational entertainment.
Exactly. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. So I ordered some graphic novels. I think that's a good place to start. So we'll see what happens.
It's you. You'll figure it out. It's you. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
No doubt you'll figure it out.
So I've got a few other books in the queue, but I'll definitely be writing a fiction book at some point in this venture. My goal is to write a book a year until the day I die. So
you can do that.
We'll see what happens.
You can do that. Yeah, that's why Michael Anthony can do anything. That's why you can't do it. I mean, like it's one of those things. Go ahead.
I already decided.
Yeah, you're gonna do it.
It's not even negotiable, man.
Right.
Like that's what people have to understand about life. It's not a negotiation. It's not a maybe. I'm going to do this. If I live another 40 years, I'm writing 40 books. That's the decision I made.
And why not? I mean, you're talking to YouTube preaching to the choir. I mean, I do a lot of stuff. People can Google me. They see I do all kinds of stuff. I get an idea, Michael. I just do it. I go with it. And people always tell me they admire me for that. But to me, again, it's not anything magical. It's just that I make time. And it's my thing. I tell people all the time. I say this, and yes, it sounds a little crude, but it's what I always say all the time. I don't have any time. I go, do you take a shit in the morning? Yes. You take time for that, right? Do you eat? Yes, you take time. Like there is time, and I also all the time. Yeah, I like TV too, but maybe take one half out, take one show out, and insert what you want to do. Because, like you said earlier, a step is a step is a step. It can be incremental, it can be small, but as long as you're taking steps, it doesn't matter where. It can be small, large. Just take a step. It's when you don't do any steps, nothing happens.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
It happens. So stop saying you don't have time. Stop saying like it's all fear talking. It's all fear of success. It's fear of whatever. It's just I don't. Do you believe in the whole thing of fear of success? Do you believe in that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's the catalyst for why people don't take action.
Yeah.
And I think just navigating that is the most difficult thing in life. But again, it starts with what you're telling yourself. If you're telling yourself you're scared of success, then that's going to be true.
Yep.
If you're telling yourself you can do it, then you will. Like, did you ever watch this show, Undercover Billionaire? You heard of this show?
Oh yeah.
So Grant Cardone, who was on it, he's a billionaire. Like, he runs this huge company, and he invested $10,000 in my business a couple of months ago.
Okay.
I had to speak on a stage in front of 10,000 people in a competition to win. And for weeks prior, every day, it's in the journal back there. Every day I wrote, I won $10,000 from Grant Cardone, because I forced it into reality. And then on the backside, I did the work. I must have rehearsed this speech 75 times, 100 times, 500 times. I have no idea. But to the point, it was ad nauseum. I was like, I got this down pat, top to bottom. And then it was time to show up. I showed up and I performed, but I already knew I was going to win before I ever even walked in the room. And that's how you have to think about life.
You do. You have to show up for yourself. That's just the bottom line. You got to show up for yourself. You got to be your biggest advocate. You got to be your own biggest cheerleader. You just have to. And
100%.
And anything's possible. I mean, it literally is. And I'm telling you, T and I are true examples of people who I came from nothing, and and I said, and for me, it's a little later in life, but who cares? I'm still here, and I'm doing it. He's doing it. It doesn't even matter. That's what we're saying. If we can do it, anybody can do it too. That's kind of you got to unbreak, as he would say, unbroken. You unbreak that thought pattern.
100%.
It's too much, or I can't do it, or it's unattainable, or just. People make things happen every day. They do every day. I mean, it's we're not unicorns.
Yeah. And somebody's only one step in front of you. And so if you can draft behind them, you can create success in your life.
I agree with that. As we close out, I've been talking, I like to talk to you forever. You have to talk on the show another time, again. One piece of advice to the folks who are watching this, like something you can leave them with, a takeaway you can leave them with.
Yeah, the number one thing I think anyone can do in their life to create success is grab one of these things called a pen and a piece of paper and write down their dreams every single day.
I like that. I write stuff down all the time. I have pads of paper. I write. I don't use my phone. I actually write stuff down. I like seeing. Some reason when I write it down, it's real.
Same. Write it down. Write it down. Get it out of your head. Stop pondering on it. Write it down, look at it every day, and move towards it. And in time, if you do the work, you can create momentum and you can create change.
Yes, get out of the analysis paralysis. Get out of that. We do have to get out of your head. Get out of your head. I agree with that, Michael. Michael, you're just amazing. I'm very honored to have you on my show and taking time out with me. I love watching people who are trying to affect positive change in the world, because we see all the negative stuff all the time, and that's really easy. But for my network and for myself personally, I'm all about aligning myself with people who are doing positive stuff. So thank you for your service.
Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate being here. Thank you so much.
Can you tell me where they can find all your goodness? Where they can find all of it?
Yeah, so I'm on all the social media at Michael Unbroken. And then thinkunbrokenpodcast.com. And you can just search Think Unbroken Podcast on all the things.
Yes, I'll put that in the description below so you guys can actually follow that easier. I'm James Lott Jr. You can follow me. We're all James Lott Jr.'s are sold at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms and on TikTok. Yeah, I'm on there too. And go ahead and check out. I have a business, A Lot of Help, which is my life coaching business. You can go to alotofhelp.com. You need somebody to talk to somebody and get your life in some kind of order, because it's up to you. It's you. It's all about you. There's nothing wrong with being selfish about yourself together. Nothing wrong with that at all. And please follow Michael. Go ahead and go to his Instagram. Go to where he's at. Follow him. So he's somebody who's doing good work. And everyone out there, please take care of yourselves no matter what day it is. Change can happen. Change is possible. And you are just at the beginning.